In this video, I'm gonna show you guys how to create the 2022 World Cup logo in simpler versions. I'm gonna make it geometrical manner and in gradient style. So let's get into it. So here we are, my friend, on the Inkscape interface. The first thing that we need to create is a circle by using this ellipse tool. So hold Ctrl plus Shift and just drag it out like this to create the perfect circle. And I'm gonna back to selection tool. I'm gonna give this a black color by pressing this black color palette. And as you see on the fill, it's already black. And I'm gonna set, the size of this object into 100 by 100 pixels. And make sure you turn on the lock to turn on the proportions. So just type in 100, and it should turn, the edge into a like 100. Just the same to width. And you want to turn this thing into a 50% in opacity by opening up this edit colors, gradient, and arrowheads. Basically it's a fill and stroke panel. So let's click on that. You should open up this panel over here and set the opacity to 50%. And as you see, if you can't find it, just go to the view and uncheck this white screen. Otherwise you can't really find it. So as you see, our circle is a bit smaller. I'm gonna hold Control and roll up mouse wheel to zoom in, just maybe a bit like this. And the next thing, this object that we need to create is a rectangle by using this rectangle tool over here. I'm gonna hold Ctrl plus Shift to create the perfect rectangle like this. And I'm gonna set this thing into a blue color, and for the size is the same thing, 100 pixels. So let's select both of them, and this time we're gonna open up a align and distribute menu or panel by pressing this icon over here. And I'm gonna align it on the vertical as well as on the horizontal axis. And I'm gonna select this rectangle over here and hold Alt and select it again. And as you see, on the fill status, it's gonna change to black, which means that we select the circle that we have created before. So I'm gonna press Ctrl plus D to duplicate it, and I'm gonna hold Shift and click on the blue rectangle. Go to the path, difference, and we end up with something like this, And we want to, break them apart into a individual object. So go to the path, break apart, and we have this shared object that we're gonna select all of them and just delete them except for this one or the other one. It doesn't really matter. And I'm gonna select both of this object, and I'm gonna select it once again. And as you see, we have this kind of arrow over here, and I'm gonna hold Control and just drag it on the clockwise until it sits like this, perfectly in the middle. So we have an object or something, a shape like this. And I'm gonna select this blue object, and I'm gonna go to the nodes tool again, and I'm gonna select just on the bottom, hold Control and just drag it down, maybe just that far. And I'm gonna hold Control and just drag it in to zoom in. And I'm gonna select both of these nodes over here, and I'm gonna hold Control and just drag it up like this. And I'm gonna hold Shift and click and drag on the arrow. As you see, I can really click it. I'm gonna zoom in again, hold Shift and just drag in on the arrow, not the nodes like this, just the arrow, until it snaps, until the nodes meets the path. But we can't really do that because the snapping is not turning on. So let's turn that back on. I'm gonna hold Shift and just drag it in like this until it snaps. And the thing that we want is we want to have this curvature of the circle match with the straight line of this object, of this blue object, so make sure it's all parallel to each other. And I think it's pretty parallel, so I'm gonna select both of them, go to the path, union, and then I'm gonna press Ctrl plus D to duplicate it and set it into a blue color. And this time I'm gonna turn off the snapping because it's gonna get in the way if I just resize it like this. As you see, it's gonna back on. Just turn off the snapping, hold Control and just drag it in like this, hold Control and just drag it in like this. And I'm gonna turn on the snapping again by pressing Shift and 5. So hold Control and just drag it to the right until it snaps, maybe just on the bottom like this, as you see here. And I'm gonna hold Control and just drag it up. I'm gonna turn off the snapping again, hold Control and just drag it up, maybe just this size, and turn the snapping on again. Yep, maybe maybe this size and this size of the object, and I'm gonna select both of them and press Ctrl plus G to group them, Ctrl plus D to duplicate it and mirror it vertically as well as horizontally, by pressing this both of this icon, and I'm gonna snap it maybe around here like this. That's pretty good. And I'm gonna turn off the snapping, hold Control and just drag it in like this. And now I'm gonna maybe just a bit bigger like that's pretty good. And now I'm gonna press Ctrl plus U to ungroup it, and I'm gonna hold Control and just drag it in like this, maybe around that size, and turn the snapping on again. And make sure you turn on under the nodes hierarchy, its path intersection. Make sure you check that on like this, otherwise it won't snap around here, like that. And that's looking pretty good. So I'm gonna select this object over here as well as this one, hold shift and click on this one, so both of them selected. Go to the path union, so they become one object. And this one I'm just gonna let it, and both of these I'm gonna let it. So I'm gonna select both of them and back to the opacity tool and just turn on the opacity into 100%. And I'm gonna select this black object over here, and I'm gonna turn off the snapping because we're gonna work with the gradient tool this time. So in order to have it in the gradient, make sure the fill is set to linear gradient, and I'm gonna press G on the keyboard, and I'm gonna select on this top over here, or just select it on here, and the alpha I'm gonna make it into 100%, and I'm gonna set it the lightness into 100 as well as this one into 100, so it's purely white. So I'm gonna select the end stop. I'm gonna press plus, so it's put the stop in the middle, and I'm gonna make it just white, and the end I'm gonna make it into something like 10%, sorry, 90%, so it's a bit grayish, to put up a bit of shadow like that. I'm gonna make it into vertical manner like this. I'm gonna hold Control and just drag this thing up, so it looks they have a shadow on the top as well and on the bottom like that. So I'm gonna select the blue one, and then I'm gonna make it into a linear gradient just like before, and just pressing G and make the alpha into 100%. And I'm gonna select these nodes or these gradient stops, and I'm just gonna make it into something like maybe 10% gray. And I'm gonna select this one again. I'm gonna make it into 50% gray, and I'm gonna put it on here, and I'm gonna put it stop on here. So I'm gonna do the same thing with this object. I'm gonna make it into a linear gradient, and rather than make the gradient just like before, I'm gonna use the gradient that we have created like for this object. I'm gonna open up this gradient library over here. I'm just gonna select the same gradient as before and pressing G on the keyboard to open up the gradient tool. I'm gonna put it stop in here and the lighter stop in here like this. So we have something like this, and as you see, it's not looking that good, I must say, because the background is way lighter. It almost looks like the logo itself. So I'm gonna use the gradient tool again, the rectangle tool, and I'm gonna turn on the snapping, and I'm gonna put it over here until this point over here, and I'm gonna change it into something like 80% gray. I'm gonna make it to the bottom, and we have something like this. I'm gonna select this logo, hold shift and click on the background and align it on the vertical as well as horizontal axis. I'm gonna select the logo, hold Control plus Shift and just drag it out like this. Maybe make a bit slanted to the left like this to make it straight up. So that's how you create the simpler version of the World Cup logo. Hopefully it's beneficial to you and you can extend it even further to hype up the 2022 World Cup. And thank you for your time.